Have you ever felt like your world was crumbling down, like every plan you made just fell apart? I want to share a powerful reminder with you. Sometimes, Allah breaks your plans to save you from a disaster you can't see. This isn't just a quote. It's a profound truth that can change how you see your struggles. Let me tell you a story that brings this to life. A story from the heart of an old city that will stay with you long after this video ends. In the ancient, winding streets of Bahawalpur, there lived a humble tailor named Azim. He was a man known for his kindness, his gentle smile, and his unwavering faith. But life for Azim was a constant struggle. His shop was barely a room, tucked away in a busy alley, and his income was as unpredictable as the desert wind. Some days he had work, other days he had none. Yet, despite his hardships, his faith was a fortress. Every single morning, before threading his first needle, he would cup his hands in prayer and whisper, "Ya Allah, whatever is written for me, I accept it with all my heart." This was his anchor, his source of peace in a sea of uncertainty. One afternoon, as the sun beat down on the city, a luxurious car pulled up near his small shop. Out stepped a man dressed in fine clothes, his presence commanding attention. This was Ramesh Shah, one of the wealthiest merchants in the region. He walked into Azim's shop, his eyes scanning the humble space, and said with an urgent tone, "Azim, I have heard you are the best. My daughter's wedding is in just 2 days. I need 10 exquisite dresses stitched, and I need them urgently. If you can complete this task on time, I will pay you not double, but triple your usual price." Azim's heart skipped a beat. His eyes, usually filled with a quiet resignation, now lit up with a brilliant spark of hope. Triple the price? This was more money than he had seen in months. This was the answer to his prayers. This money could finally fix the leaking roof that dripped water onto his children as best every time it rained. It could buy the school books his son and daughter so desperately needed. It could pay off the rent he was months behind on, lifting the constant weight of eviction from his shoulders. This wasn't just money, it was a lifeline. Without a moment's hesitation, he accepted the challenge. For the next 48 hours, Azim's world shrank to the size of his tiny shop. He worked with a fervor he had never known. The rhythmic sound of his sewing machine filled the air day and night. He didn't sleep, he barely ate. He just worked, his hands moving with precision and speed, fueled by coffee and the vision of a better life for his family. Each stitch was a prayer, each completed dress a step closer to his dream. Friends and neighbors would pass by and see him, a solitary figure hunched over his work, and they would marvel at his dedication. The final night arrived. The deadline was just hours away. 9 beautiful dresses were complete, hanging like works of art in his shop. Only one more remained. As he began the final stitches on the last dress, a change began to stir outside. The clear sky turned a menacing shade of gray. The wind began to howl, rattling the old wooden door of his shop. And then, the storm hit Bahawalpur with a terrifying fury. Thunder cracked open the sky, shaking the very foundations of the old city. Rain lashed down in blinding sheets. The lights flickered and then went out, plunging Azim's shop into complete darkness. He lit a candle, his hands trembling slightly, determined to finish his work. But then, a deafening crack echoed from outside. A flash of brilliant, blinding light. A massive power surge. A spark ignited the old, frayed wiring in his shop. In an instant, a small flame erupted. It licked at the dry fabrics, the wooden shelves, the threads. Within seconds, the small flame grew into a monstrous fire. Azim screamed. He ran outside, then back in, desperate, shouting, "My work, my effort, my risk, my provision from Allah." He tried to beat back the flames, but it was hopeless. The fire consumed everything with a terrifying hunger. His life's work, his hopes, his dreams, all of it was turning to smoke and ash right before his eyes. He was forced back by the intense heat, and he collapsed to his knees on the wet street outside, watching helplessly as his entire livelihood was devoured. He wept, not loud, but with deep, gut-wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. Neighbors and passers-by gathered, their faces a mixture of pity and awe at the destructive power of the fire. Some whispered amongst themselves, their voices barely audible above the storm. Poor man. Maybe Allah is angry with him. What did he do to deserve this? But Azim, even in his moment of absolute devastation, his body trembling with shock and grief, heard their whispers. He lifted his tear-streaked face and said, his voice raspy but firm, Allah never takes something away without giving something better in its place. I trust his plan. It was a declaration of faith made from the depths of despair, a testament to the belief he had held onto his entire life. The next morning the storm had passed, leaving behind a clear sky and the stench of smoke. With empty hands, a heavy heart, and clothes stained with soot, Azim walked to the grand mansion of Ramiz Shah. He stood before the wealthy merchant, his head bowed in shame and sorrow. Mr. Shah, he began, his voice cracking, I am so sorry. I lost everything in a fire last night. The dresses. They are gone. I couldn't finish your order. He braced himself for the man's anger, for his disappointment, for the loss of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But instead of anger, a look of shock spread across Ramiz Shah's face. He froze, his eyes wide. He stared at Azim, his own voice shaking as he spoke. Azim, do you know where I was storing the expensive fabric for those dresses before I gave them to you? Azim, confused, just shook his head. Ramiz continued, his voice filled with a strange mix of horror and relief. Last night, while the storm was raging, thieves broke into my mansion. They knew about the wedding. They stole jewelry. They stole money. They took almost everything of value. He paused, taking a deep breath. If that incredibly valuable fabric for the dresses had been here, in my home, the loss would have been catastrophic. It would have financially destroyed me. He stepped forward and placed a heavy hand on Azim's shoulder, his eyes meeting the tailor's. Azim, he said, his voice thick with emotion, your small loss protected my family from complete ruin. The fire in your shop, as terrible as it was, saved me from a far greater disaster. Allah used your hardship to save me. Tears welled up in Azim's eyes once more, but this time they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of overwhelming gratitude and understanding. He finally saw the bigger picture. Ramiz Shah didn't just forgive him. He compensated Azim with 5 times the amount he had originally promised. He personally funded the rebuilding of his shop, making it bigger and better than before. And he offered Azim a permanent, lucrative contract to be the exclusive tailor for his entire clothing brand. As Azim stood in his newly built shop, surrounded by new equipment and endless rolls of fine fabric, he looked up and whispered, Ya Allah, the storm wasn't a punishment. It was your protection. The fire wasn't a test of my patience. It was a sign of your mercy. He understood that what looked like his greatest tragedy was, in fact, his greatest blessing in disguise. So the next time your plans fall apart, the next time you face a storm in your life, remember Azim. Remember that what feels like a devastating loss might be the very thing protecting you from a greater one you cannot see. Trust in the plan. If this story touched your heart, please comment Alhamdulillah for every test down below. And don't forget to share this video. You never know who might need this powerful reminder today. Thank you for watching.